Secretary of Treasury. Secretary of Treasury. Deals with money. Deals with money.
Hi, and welcome back to Mr. Raymond's Civics SOL Academy, where today we will continue our look at politics with campaign contributions and costs, which is basically money in politics. In the election of 2012, a record $7 billion was spent, with more than $2 billion spent just by the presidential candidates alone. So how did these candidates get all of this money to spend? Well, through campaign contributions, which means donations. Experts predict that the 2012 record will be shattered in 2016, with early estimates of $10 billion being spent by candidates, parties, and outside groups. For those of you taking the Civics SOL, you are going to be expected to understand the impact or role of these rising campaign contributions and costs. And while this lesson was designed for students taking the Civics SOL, it'll work for the Civics EOC exam, as well as any civics or U.S. government class. And just a reminder, teachers, that this PowerPoint with worksheets, smartboard files, and lesson plans and additional activities are available at Teachers Pay Teachers. Just click the link in the notes below or go to Teachers Pay Teachers and search for Mr. Raymond Civics Academy. So what do candidates spend all of that money on? Well, here's a breakdown of the spending for just 1 month during the 2012 presidential campaign between Republican Mitt Romney and Democrat Barack Obama. As you can see, in the month of June leading up to the election in November, both candidates spent the bulk of their money on media advertising and consultants. Now, don't read too much into the fact that Obama spent much more money. He was running for re-election, so he started later than Romney. And this is just the money spent by the candidates, and it doesn't include money spent by what are known as PACs and super PACs, which we'll look at in a minute. So what specifically do you need to know for your state exam? Well, first and foremost is that elections are expensive. I've seen a state practice question which describes the amount of fundraising a candidate does and asks you to draw a conclusion, and the answer was elections are expensive. Duh. You also have to consider how all of this fundraising has changed running for office. Probably the biggest change is the amount of time candidates have to spend doing fundraising. Newsweek magazine recently wrote an article estimating that members of Congress spend half of their time fundraising. Other estimates put it around 30% of their time, and this isn't just during election season. Many Americans see this as a big problem, as we elected officials to get things done, not just to spend all of their time raising money. Many candidates will hold fundraising dinners where contributors will donate as much as $100,000 to have dinner with the candidate. Now, I don't know about you or your parents, but I sure don't have that kind of money to spend on dinner. And this has raised the argument that the wealthy in this country have special access and influence with elected officials. Now, one of the results of all of that money that you need to know for your test is that it limits opportunity to run for public office. Candidates must have the connections to raise this kind of money. And candidates who don't, but who might do a great job in office, don't really have much of a chance in an election. We are also seeing a huge advantage to the wealthy who run for office. People who can spend some of their own money to get things started, as demonstrated by this chart showing that half of the members of Congress are millionaires, some of whom have huge amounts of money. All of this has led to the movement for what is known as campaign finance reform. Now, reform means to change, so this is a movement to change campaign finance rules. Calls have been made to pass stricter new laws about how much money can be donated. And we saw this as the central theme with Democratic candidate Bernie Sanders, who we see here said that, quote, "A few wealthy individuals and corporations have bought up our private sector, and now they're buying up the government. Campaign finance reform is the most important issue facing us today." Now, despite the fact that he lost to Hillary Clinton in the primary election, Sanders' call for finance reform was very popular with a lot of voters. So here are the rules or laws that we have today. Individuals can only give $2,700 to a candidate and almost double that for what is known as a PAC and up to $10,000 to a party. And then we see that more money can be spent by PACs. So what are PACs? PAC is short for Political Action Committee. And as you can see from this definition, a PAC is a committee formed by a business, labor, or other special interest groups to raise money and make contributions to the campaigns of political candidates whom they support. Basically, it's a group that pools all their money together to help people get elected who are going to help their interests. And you have to remember for your test that all of this campaign finance needed has really encouraged the development of these groups, these PACs. Most businesses have PACs today, and many people are uncomfortable with the amount of influence that corporations have with politicians. What has fueled concern in recent years was a Supreme Court decision known as Citizens United, in which the Supreme Court ruled that corporations have the same rights as citizens, and that donating money to campaigns is a form of free speech. Now, this has led to the development of what are known as super PACs. There are no limits on how much money a person or corporation can give to a super PAC. These super PACs are supposed to be independent of political candidates, but they can place advertisements and spend money on campaigns to help that candidate get elected. Now, you can see on this chart all of the money spent by PACs on advertisements in light blue. And as you can tell, a lot of the ads that you see on TV are not paid for by the candidate, but by PACs who get their money from corporations or the super wealthy. Here we see some of the biggest donors from the 2012 election, with individuals giving millions of dollars, as well as an oil and gas company. So much for that law that says you can only give $2,500. Most Americans and many politicians feel that something has to be done about all of this money being spent on political campaigns. There is a sense that the interests of the people are being put behind the interests of business and the super wealthy. We will have to see how the future of campaign finance plays out, but for now, let's get you ready for your test. So what conclusion can be drawn from the fact that candidates spend so much time fundraising? Remember, I told you that question where they ask you to make a conclusion? Well, elections are expensive. What effect does the rising cost of elections have on those who wish to run for office? Can you afford to run for office? It limits the opportunities and gives an advantage to the wealthy. Rising costs have led to the development of these groups. Remember, it's 3 letters. Think Pac-Man, PACs, and super PACs. Rising costs have led to efforts to reform, what do we call it, reforming all this money in politics? Campaign finance laws. Campaign finance laws place limits on individual contribution amounts. Rising costs, PACs, and super PACs have had what impact on special interest groups? It has increased their influence. If you have the money, you have the influence. And that is it. I want to thank you guys for watching. Be sure to subscribe, because up next we're going to look at voter registration. And just a reminder, teachers, that this PowerPoint with worksheets, smartboard activities, quizzes, and lesson plans, and all types of additional activities are available at Teachers Pay Teachers. Just click the link in the notes below, or search for Mr. Raymond's Civics Academy at Teachers Pay Teachers. Each lesson's just $1.99. Again, thanks for watching, guys. Keep up that good work, and you are going to ace that exam.